here we are about to spend a very enjoyable Sunday morning, beginning at Yeovil in Somerset with the spirit of the 60s. That was a period when motorcycles in this country were at their very best. We are going to capture some of that atmosphere today at the 10th anniversary run of the Spirit of the 60 run, organised by the Westland Motorcycle Club. We've been meeting some of the riders of those bikes. Some of them rode them back in the 60s, some of them who've taken on the habit since, and we'll be looking at some of the bikes that were built during that period and today capture that spirit of the 60s when motorcycling was at its best. The visitors to this Royal Naval Air Station Museum will be delighted today because not only is the old Buccaneer out there on its hard standing, but 497 gleaming motorcycles of that wonderful era when we really did enjoy our motorcycling, a lot more freedom on the roads than there is today. These enthusiasts have brought their machines many miles, some of them up to nearly 200 miles, just to take part in this 80-odd mile annual run, organised by the Westland Motorcycle Club, a very enthusiastic club that enjoys road runs. And I think this is what the majority of old bike owners enjoy. Rather than put them on a stand and let the crowd wander up and down at shows and look at them, they like to get on them and hear them and ride them and feel them and smell them. Oh, to really enjoy the days that when they were a little bit younger than they are today. The 60s were the time when motorcycling was definitely in its heyday. We heard of the notorious cafe races at such locations as Ace Cafe on London's North Circular, when young and old tested their skills and bikes against each other. Not only British classics here today, but of course we have some wonderful Italian stuff as well. One of their popular classics, of course, is the Ducati. I've often wondered if the Italians ever had any other colour paint but red. They invariably painted their sports bikes red, and it really suited them. Great machines and very much sought after by today's enthusiasts. Unlike our British manufacturers, the Ducati, the Italian firm, is still producing some great bikes and doing very well nicely in the superbike racing. This is a Triton, half Triumph and half Norton. Norton being the frame part, that wonderful featherbed frame designed by Rex and Chromium McCandless. When Harold Daniels, the Norton rider, tried it out, he said it's like a featherbed, and it certainly earned its name through the racing era of the 50s and on into the 60s, and very much in classic riding now, and of course, made in England. The Triumph engine is very suitable, and these Tritons are very popular among the fortunate classic owners. BSA, 3 fine B's here, 2 twins and a single. This end we have the Gold Flash, which was the A10. BSA, when they built their first 500 twin, it was the A7, and then they uprated it to 650 to become the Gold Flash. One of the most tractable of the parallel twins, ideal for sidecar use. Well, this is a bit of a mishmash, if the owner will pardon my saying. It's got a Suzuki engine. The frame has been adapted and twisted a little bit from, I believe, a Rickman frame. It's called the Rat. I had a word with the owner here, and he's very proud of his result, and he enjoys riding it. What else can you ask for? And they also come in pairs. This is interesting. This is the Sunbeam post-war, built by BSAs. Many firms owned Sunbeams during their long career. This bike really showed the future, what we could do. An inline twin, shaft drive. Very nice bikes to ride, smooth, high revving. They built the S7 first with the bigger tires. Then they went a little bit smaller with the wheels to try and make it appeal more to motorcyclists, but our modern lads didn't want it. But they did want old bikes like this, the AJ. This is not the most immaculate bike on the lineup, except for the silencer, that's in good order. But what a popular machine these were. A good sporting ride-to-work bike, AJS. Might not look pretty, but it got here and it completed the run. AJS was AJ Stevens, which was taken over by the Matchless Group just before the war. Another fine AJS here, the Twin, showing off something that AJSs were very noted for, the jam pot suspension. And here we have a lineup of scooters, Vespa and Lambretta. Remember the mods during that period? They always had their scooters, long overcoats. Now then, the name Vince. First of all, HRD, and then Vincent, built in Stevenage in Berkshire. This is not one of the big 1000cc twins. The lesser known and more rare 500 Comet. Rare it might be, but valuable, yes, because ask John Surtees. He cut his teeth on the circuits in this country with a 500 Comet. And Velocette, well, I always enthuse over Velocette. Never made a bad bike. During the 30s, they're very popular for their overhead camshaft models, the KTT and the KDS. This is a pushrod model, but as with the MAC and MOV, they came on with the Venom and Viper and the Thruxton. They put short pushrods in. And this made the performance of that pushrod thing go almost as good as their overhead camshaft bikes. With a characteristic Velocette fish can silencer. I love it. Constellation, no, it's not a Lockheed Constellation. This is a Royal Enfield, the big 750 parallel twin. Royal Enfield's motto, built like a gun. You can see the badge on the top of the tank there. Not one to earn a lot of prizes in road races, but they certainly did well when it come to cross-country work. And over the bumps, the trials, the scrambles, a good tough bike. Royal Enfield. And the BSA Gold Star, well, this is legend. There was a time when all the Clubman TTs were won by the famous BSA Gold Star. And if ever there was a sought-after single today, yes, I think it must be the Goldie. This is a very attractive swinging arm version. The first one was a plunger, 350 and 500cc. Looks like no other and sounds like no other. The Royal Enfield Bullet 500. Very interesting this, because you can now buy a Bullet 350 and 500 made in India. They've cut out the Royal bit, they call it the Enfield now, but it's built under license. Such was the design and reliability of this bike, India chose it to go on producing it, and you can still buy an almost identical bike to this today. Brand new. And a combination, Matchless twin combination. Matchless, as I said earlier, they did buy out AJS's back in the 30s and built almost identical bikes. The sidecar man, well, he was the man who still wanted his bike, yet mother had to go with him, with the family. I did a lot of sidecarring in my time. Some of my most enjoyable motoring memories are with a sidecar. And a small Norton outfit. Sidecarring was not quite as popular in the 60s as it was earlier, because after the arrival of the Mini, many people turned over to the small car then. But it's nice now, and they're in their retirement with a few bob to spare, they can go back and buy a combination again and enjoy the spirit of the 60s. There's the Gold Flash outfit. Really was an ideal bike for pulling a chair. It had a good turn of speed, a very good bottom end there. Bags of torque. I don't know what that lady's trying to describe there. Now there's an interesting featherbed Norton, this time with a big single. Norton's own engine. Scott, yes, Scott. One of the long life engines of this world. Scott designed the parallel twin water-cooled two-stroke engine, well, right at the, not long after the turn of the century. and it went on being produced. And this is a post-war model, you can see by the teleforks, and still gave a good turn of speed and power. But the most attractive thing about the Scot, and the thing that endows the ownership with much nostalgia and feeling, is the sound of it. The Yeovil. There's a Taunton club enjoying themselves over there, having a cup of tea before they set on their Spirit of the 60s run. 80 odd miles through the glorious countryside of Somerset. Well, you name it, you can find it here. As I said, 497 bikes. I really did enjoy strolling around. Now, this is a little bit different. It's in the 60s, but one that a chap has built to his own requirements. It's got the pre-war Norton International style tank on there. Twin Brooklands can silencers. Very interesting Norton. This is a fellow who's built a bike that looked like he wants it. And he's made a darn good job of it. One of the most attractive bikes there in my eye. And how patriotic can you get? It's all right to put a sticker on the tank, but this is the limit. But enjoying a ride on that AJS, well, he must be proud to be British. Another interesting Triton. Look, there's the featherbed frame with yet another Triumph engine in. Entirely different adaptation than the earlier one. The pipe's got a nice straw colour. The Norton Commando, it's a 750 SS, that one. They also did it with yellow mudguard, the yellow cowl on the front. It was very sporty that way too. This is more of the American styling with the higher handlebars. Norton's parallel twin. Of course, the parallel twin was the brainchild of Edmund Turner, who designed it for Triumphs back in the 30s. But come post-war, every firm that was producing a big bike realized that to get into the market, they had to compete with Triumph and build a parallel twin. 3 of them in a line here. On the outside, we've got 2 BSAs in the middle, a very attractive, matchless twin. And the Aerial Square 4, the only 4-cylinder bike at the show, and the only firm to build a Square 4, built it originally about 600cc back in the early 30s. Then after the war, it was produced at 1000cc, and this is one of the later ones with the alloy block. Very tractable bike, and 0 to 60 in that was better than I think any other bike there was. It didn't have exceptionally high top gear, but it had a performance like a car, the smooth acceleration there. Many of the motorcycle writers, they use those for their traveling around the countryside. BSA again, this time the 650cc Spitfires. And now we're going over to the start. Let's listen to the various sounds and roars of these bikes as they get away. The first part of the run is quite enjoyable through the country lanes, and now we arrive at our first village on the route back on the main Yeovil Froome Road at Queen Camel. This is a small village with a lot of history behind it, going right the way back to King Arthur's days. Charming little village, and I'm sure that the people out in the main street will be lined up to watch over these bikes as they go through. I'm sure enjoying the sight and the sound that they see, bringing back a lot of memories of their own motorcycling days. And what about the Morgan? That's going to be one of the oldest machines, still a motorcycle, being a three-wheeler. Morgan, built up in Malvern there. Now these Norton Commandos, some of them were fitted with an electric start that didn't have a very good name, but I've never heard them having problems with a kickstart before. But it's probably got a little bit fouled up, taking it quietly around the lanes. But I'm sure once he gets it going and gives it a good blasting out on the main road, it'll be performing well again. Do you reckon he might feel a little embarrassed? Well, it looks like we're up and running again now, and pillion passenger climbing aboard and all set for another leg of the run. No problem. And here we are at Cranmore, the East Somerset Railway, where they house the railway engines that belong to the famous David Shepherd. Nice parking area here for them all to come in at, and here will be the lunch stop and a big canteen there, quite capable of providing these hungry motorcyclists with a steak or whatever they wish. We must mention here the work done by the marshals and outriders on a run like this, because they're very valuable. Voluntarily they come out and make up a point on corners or a depot like this where they all come in and do a lot of work during the day. But of course, they too are motorcyclists at heart. That's the famous bathtub triumph. You can see by the shape on the back how it got that name. That colour makes it the Triumph 21 to 350. It's interesting too to see the different attire that these motorcyclists are in. Some with their anorak and jeans, and some with the proper motorcycle gear. It just depends whether they're everyday motorcyclists. Fast motorcyclists will just get the bike out occasionally to come along for a run. But of course with a scooter, well, you only need just a little bit of rain protection. Nice 500 twin BSA. And judging by this fellow's array of badges, he's done a few runs in his time. Harley Davidson, One of our American entrants. American bike, that is. Still produced today and with a very popular following. They're certainly crowding in. I think it's going to be a rush for the queue soon. One of our gold stars. And that's a very relaxing way to do it with a sidecar. Not an easy thing to get used to, but once you are, well, to me, a lot of enjoyment. Another rare bike coming in now, it's a Douglas Dragonfly, built at Kingswood in Bristol. Only a small firm and didn't stand the pressures of society not for long after the war and lost out. What a shame. They always built a different bike, a very nice bike. 350 horizontally opposed twins. One of the later Nortons that will be covering there. Something that we felt we had to do, I suppose, to compete with the different and more attractive foreign bikes, but I always found it sad to cover up good machinery. That's the Norton Dominator. That's their 500 twin. Followed by yet another Triumph. I think we see the name Triumph more than any other on this run. Of course, they did go on producing their bikes much longer than the other firms that went to the wall. A couple of Marshalls coming in. They too have earned their lunch. There's something magic about motorbikes, something that inspires us to do all sorts of things, even write poetry. Whenever I see a British bike, I usually start to drool as memories flood back to the days of village life, of school. Local men on old machines, belt drive, oil pumped by hand, and slipping clutches, rectified with a pocket full of sand. Then appeared a Biza sloper and an aerial, big square 4. We had Velos, Nortons, many makes just before the war. Then came the Yanks with their Harleys and Indians, V-twin sound. I didn't like them with their clutches and gear change, the wrong way round. As a young married man, I bought my first bike, a BSA B21. It took me to work several miles each day and weekends provided good fun. We'd watch all the experts up Basbury Ring taking part in the local club trials. Then Sunday night, off to Wells Pictures, we knocked up some pleasure-filled miles. We could leave our bikes in the car park. No padlock, no ruddy great chain. You knew that your bike and your leggings were there when you went back again. I then had a Velo, M20, A7. The last two had sidecars to pull, because small car expense was no option for me, despite the old sidecar was full. There's nothing quite like old bike engines. There rattles and drips of hot oil. We like kickstarts and cables and 6 volts, magnetos, not even a coil. So thank God there's folk, like the Westland Club, to keep old bikes looking like new. Because without those nostalgic memories, I'd be a sad man, wouldn't you? Many of the bikes here were, and probably are, capable of 100 miles per hour. In the 60s, young lads of 16 were riding such bikes on a provisional license, in many cases without a helmet. Thoughts like this can fill one with horror today. Yes, there were accidents, but nothing seemed to daunt the spirit of the riders of that era. I've always found the comradeship of motorcyclists second to none. Breakdowns were common, especially amongst those who ran their bikes on a shoestring. Bet your life another bike would always stop and get possible help. Yes, that spirit is here in this group today. Help in finding or supplying rare parts, or freely giving helpful advice. If you're a biker, you've got friends. And still they come, filling up this quite large car park. I think the whole lot appeared here free of any major problems. Well-known Cranmore siding, where many interesting trains have run over the past few years. There's a strange affinity, too, between those who follow the steam engine world and those who follow the motorcycle world. There's something about the open machinery that you can watch and work. Now there's an interesting little bike there, the James. James is a manufacturer in their own rights of their own engines way before the war. But post-war, concentrated like many other small firms, building a bike with a Villiers two-stroke engine, a general utility bike for getting to work. Nice little machines they were too. Nice pair of the Triumph bathtub twins, both of them 350, model 21. Beautiful styling were Triumphs. Now it looks like we've got the name broken on the bathtub back there, but now there's something to look for at his next Auto Jumbo. That's what biking's all about. Forever surging. Couple of Cottons here. Now that's an old name in the motorcycle world. A Gloucester firm. Once again, after the war, common users of Villiers two-stroke engines. Villiers must have produced millions of engines. Made a very interesting frame before the war, all straight tubes bolted together. Very strong, very light. Another 350 twin. The old timers enjoying their wander around too. Bet your life the restaurant is full today. Just look at it. Oh well, isn't everybody who wants a steak for lunch? Another of our Harley-Davidson entries. Harley must be congratulated on their marketing because I think they make as much money in this country and other countries on their spares and jackets and trousers, etc. with their logo on as much as they do out of their bikes. Little 175cc BS8 Bantam, that famous bike that engine pattern copied from DKW after the war. This is one of the last of them, the 175. Our two Lambrettas. Not my favourite bike to ride. The centre of gravity was all wrong as far as I was concerned, but I think scooter riding was an art of its own. Certainly had a big following, and still has. Another of our German machines here. Germany went for the black styling, you see, whereas Italy went for the bright red. But the rough aluminium finish on there, but what a smart machine they are. And good engineering, as what you'd expect from Germany. That's an interesting BSA there, belonging to local lad Kevin Samways. He's very proud today because it's his bike actually advertising the spirit of the 60s on all the brochures. Yes, Kevin's a very proud motorcyclist, spent a lot of time on that machine, and it shows. And our little three-wheeler are what we call the bubble car, built by Isetta, BMWs. Some were Heinkels, then there was the unusual one, the Messerschmitt. Very popular, but of course they went out of fashion when the Mini came in. And back to my Velocets again. I do love that Velo. Very unusual way of adjusting the rear suspension at the back. It's quite self-explanatory, as you can see there. Great bikes, Velos. Character of their own and a sound of their own. And Velocets didn't only make bikes of that nature. This is the LE Velocet. Water-cooled, flat twin. Beautiful little machine. So quiet, probably one of the quietest bikes ever built. The early ones were hand start and hand change, but this is a later one with a kick start and the foot change. Clever bit of engineering, forward thinking, but then again, the British motorcyclists didn't like progress. Somebody spotted something that's not quite authentic. You'll always get this. But of course, didn't every motorcyclist want to be authentic? He wants to put a more modern carburetor. He wants to put a better coil on and change the ignition. He wants to improve. Whereas others stick to the original. And if they decide to stick to the original, bet your life somebody's going to come along and tell you just haven't quite got it right. But that's what creates the atmosphere of the whole day. Nice megaphone exhaust there. Of course, back in the old days of the racing motorcyclists, the megaphones were tuned and the engine wouldn't run very well at low speeds. They'd only run when they were on the meg. And when they were on the meg, didn't they sound beautiful? Bikes like the Norton over there. Beautiful example that was of a featherbed frame. A pair of more recent Nortons here. Quite pretty compared with the old black and silver. The Mitchell family, a local family, interested in the steam. Have a steam engine they manage most weekends. They too find it interesting coming around and look at the old bikes. Now here is a bit of cream. The top of the show as far as any motorcyclist in that era was concerned, the Vincent. We had the Vincent Rapide, the Vincent Black Shadow. Now this is the Black Prince, a fully enclosed bike. Absolute luxury in its day. One of the most expensive, if not the most expensive British bike. And I dare say, if you start bidding for any of the bikes there on this show today, this is going to be by far the most expensive. You don't find many of them around now in the preservation world. Myself, I still adopt the same attitude as I do about some of the others. Why cover up good engineering? But then again, to each his own. The Black Prince. Something completely different, but still capable of a run on the spirit of the 60s.
I'll turn it around if you like.
Well, it's time for our marshals to get themselves together again, set off to the various junctions to make sure these lads don't get lost on the leg home. They're going back to Yeovil again, where they will get their prizes and awards and have a good old natter as to how the road was and how the run was and how they enjoyed everything. It's a great day. Let's hear them as they take off. Well, did you enjoy the day? I certainly did, and I'm sure many others did as well. Especially these lads who are riding their bikes. If you've got a bike at home, get it out and ride it, or if you want one, go and find one. There's plenty about. Because this is what it's all about, enjoying life. Getting out there and recreating the things that we enjoyed so many years ago. Recreate what we've recreated today, the spirit of the 60s.